So, where do most Americans stand when it comes to abortion? CBN's Paul Strand recently spoke with a Catholic professor who says most Americans dislike abortions, but few want to see them all banned. He believes this fact could mean there are new chances to work out a real compromise that could lead to fewer abortions.
We're talking with Charles Camosy, who's written Beyond the Abortion Wars. Charles is a professor at Fordham University. And Charles, first tell me, why is the binary pro-life, pro-choice picture really much more complicated than what we think? That it's just pro-lifers, pro-choicers, that's it?
Well, if you just talk to enough people about abortion, you realize that those two binary categories just don't work at all. So most Americans are highly skeptical of abortion. Most Americans don't like abortion. They think it's a bad thing. Most Americans also want exceptions for like life, rape, maybe fetal deformities. So if you're that person, are you pro-life? Yes. Are you pro-choice? Yep. So at the end of the day, this kind of binary is just really unhelpful for what Americans actually think. It's also unhelpful in that it pits us against each other, right? So if you're in that camp, you're definitely against that camp, and we're in some sort of war. And my book, which is trying to get beyond the abortion wars, needed to start there, needed to say, let's just admit that it's way more complicated than this.
So now why does this give you hope?
There's a lot of hope because, again, most Americans, whether they self-identify as pro-life and pro-choice, and often has very little to do with how they actually think about abortion, right? It has to do with politics and something else. But what they actually think about abortion, there's wide overlap. People don't like most abortions, whether they're pro-life or pro-choice, and people generally want exceptions for life and sexual violence, again, whether they're pro-life or pro-choice.
And there's two groups coming along that especially give you hope. Can you tell me about the two groups that you think are going to really change the debate?
Yeah, this has me really, really excited, and it's not sort of wishful thinking, it's what the numbers actually say. So the future of this country, to anybody that's paying attention, are millennials and Hispanics. Those are the people that will lead us into the next generation. And both groups are really disproportionately skeptical of abortion, really. So for instance, millennials, the Pain Capable Act, which is coming for a vote, if you ask people who are young versus people who are old, the younger people actually support the 20-week ban compared to people who are older. Hispanics as well. If you ask young people to declare whether they're pro-life or pro-choice, those that say they're pro-life are 51% of which say, I'm extremely pro-life, this matters a lot to me. Of those who are pro-choice, only 21% say that about them. So there's an intensity gap as well.
Well, now what would you say to pro-life absolutists who say any kind of compromise is unacceptable morally?
We need to make a distinction between what we argue about ethics and morality, and what we do in the public sphere and what kind of laws we push. I mean, you've been doing this job a long time. You see what happens in DC. There's just no way that an exceptionalist bill has a prayer of passing anything and anytime soon in this town. There are things that do have a chance to pass, right? We could talk about those. But just to give you an example, if you don't have an exception for sexual violence, media, politicians, virtually anybody you talk to will immediately go there and say, we can't take you seriously because you just don't care about women who suffered sexual violence, right? And we saw that with the legitimate rape comment, right, in the 2012. Yeah. Everything was about that. Everything became about that. And so just practically and politically, we need to have those exceptions. Again, I think we need to make a distinction between the practical and the political and the moral on the other hand, though.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Charles Camosy, author of Beyond the Abortion Wars. Charles Camosy, professor at Fordham University. Thanks, Charles.
And for more on the debate on abortion and the undercover Planned Parenthood video, log on to cbnnews.com.